Because they say that you can buy it in the video.
Got the beat! What up, people? How's it going? With tonight's MCs, my name is Manny and this is Emily. Welcome to Uncover. This is evening number 3. We'll be thinking about success and what that means for you and me. So grab a drink, take a seat, eat some Haribo and see what this evening has to offer. Source Cafe's the place to be. Hey, ho, hey, ho.
Hey.
Okay, let's go. Hey guys, hey, Emily. Hey guys, thanks for coming. It's great that you're here. Whether you've been here before or it's your first time here, it's awesome to have you with us.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so tonight what we've got going, we've got a talk, we've had some great music. Give it up for the band again once more. We've got talk, drama, more music, more chilling, video. Yeah,
we're going to be thinking about success tonight, and Michael is going to be talking for us. Why don't we get him up?
Round of applause to Michael. Moxie, hello.
Hello.
So, tell us about yourself. Where are you from?
I am from Bournemouth. I'm down on the south coast where the sun always shines. Actually, you know what? It was sunnier in Manchester today than it was in Bournemouth. I was on the phone to a friend of mine and they said it's been cloudy all day. Like, that must be the one time in all of history that Manchester has had more sun than Bournemouth. But I'm glad that I was in Manchester for the day when it happened. Just so you didn't have a beach to go and sit on when the sun was shining. But anyway, that part had to do. What was it? Oh yeah, I'm from Bournemouth.
Yeah, what do you do?
What do I do? I sunbathe on... No, I don't actually. I do this actually. I go around universities around the UK and different parts of Europe and present something of the core kind of centre of the Christian message and seek to try and answer some of the big questions that people might have about it.
Cool. And what brings you to Manchester? Any tedious links? Or
I was going to say, what brings me to Manchester? You invited me to come, but any interesting links with Manchester? Actually, my dad was born in Manchester. He only lived here for 6 months, but it influenced him to the extent that when Man United play Arsenal, he supports Man United. Although, sure, if he was born in Manchester, he should have bought Man City, shouldn't he? But anyway. Yeah, no, we won't go down there, I might alienate more people. And my mum was actually born down the road in Rochdale, so that's interesting. Although they met in Leicester, so nothing to do with Northwest, I'm afraid. But yeah, so my family has to.
In Lutterworth?
Leicester? Yeah, not far from Lutterworth though. So the Northwest has definite links to my bloodline, if not in my own upbringing.
Great, well, it's great to have you here. We're going to start off with a few questions though.
Okay.
If you could be any mythical creature, what would you be?
I could be a mythical creature? Oh, I guess after last night, I better be a dragon, eh? Because like dragons are pretty much the top. No one messes with dragons, so you're pretty safe, right?
Not the Avatar big things, but it's just really cool.
No, because then I'm just stuck in one film, whereas a dragon can pretty much go at everything. I can't say.
Okay, any celebrity chef, male or female, which would you be? Not male or female, but which celebrity chef?
What are these questions? You get worse every night. All I can think of is Jamie Oliver. Why is it when you think of these questions, you can only think of like,
Go for Jamie.
Well, go for Jamie, but I'm not really quite sure why. I guess he sells lots of books, but not that would be a great reason to be him, but yeah. I wouldn't want to be Delia Smith though, really. Next, be having you.
I love Delia Smith.
Well, great cooking, but worse when she talks about football.
Okay, next one. This is a bit of a weird one. If you could be any musical instrument, what would you be?
I guess, whether it's a question of where I'd like to be, I guess people might say I'm a bit like a trumpet, because I do have quite a loud voice. And so I have to be very careful, because I do a lot of public speaking. Obviously, I'm quite used to projecting my voice to a room like this, sometimes without microphones. Also, the danger is when you go for a meal with one person in a very quiet and posh restaurants, you're telling a story and halfway through you realise that everyone in the restaurant is listening to you. So I guess that's the disadvantage of having a loud voice. So I guess maybe a trumpet, yeah?
We do all have that one friend that's awkwardly loud.
Yeah, I am the.
Sorry. Finally, if you could be any Disney character, what would you be? Who would you be? Anything. Including like old school, like Fantasia, if anybody's
Fantasia was rubbish. I could never get the whole thing with Fantasia. Like, why was it into
Blasphemy!
I used to get what's what? Lion King. That's yeah. Yeah.
Who would be though? Mufasa?
That's pretty cool. The dice. I'll go to Simba. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be hearing more from Michael in a bit.
Awesome stuff. So just some things to let you know, we've got a bookstore here tonight where you can get, if you're a guest of the CU tonight, you can grab any book for £1. Awesome deal, £1. Get in there, guys. During Michael's talk, there's going to be a phone number on the screen, so you can text in your questions that you might have, and there'll be a question time afterwards.
Also, if you know, there's been some events going on campus. So we've had lunch bars and we've had other evening events. If you've missed any, don't worry, because we've got a YouTube channel. Woohoo! It's Manchester Uncover, and all the talks are going to be up on there. So if you missed them, you can check them out on that, or send them to your friends.
Cool. Well, we better get going. We've been out on campus asking people what success means to them, and we're going to have a look at what they said.
Different things for people. Well, success depends on every person really. If one person puts his goal as waking up every morning and that's good for him, then that's successful. It's very relative from one person to another. I don't think there is any one way of looking at success. How do you success?
Achieving your own goals in the short long term.
Living up to your own expectations.
I think success is being happy. I think success is being able to share experiences with people who you enjoy being around.
You can have a very happy life and get what you want.
Achieving a goal is yourself.
Well, tricky.
To be fair.
I suppose to different people it's different things. It could be so some people like money, or just being happiness, having lots of family, having lots of friends, feeling fulfilled within yourself. You typically.
It's different for everyone. Yeah, it's very circumstantial.
Success is achieving goals, targets which you plan in your head. But obviously it means different things to different people.
It's a funny day out.
Success for me would probably, upon finishing university, get a good job.
Becoming really, really, really good at whatever I choose to do. Probably being a barrister, but also maybe academia. Just generally being fast at it, so looking for come to me for expert advice. That'll be success.
For me, success at the moment is graduate, get a job, and sustain family.
I know people do like I said, but realistically I would like a job where I end up doing a lot of money.
Happiness would be success, or climbing really high mountains.
I feel like I'm not wasting my time, I just do something that I enjoy doing.
Me, an okay job that pays quite well, but just having a nice husband and nice friends, and enough to get by and go on holiday. I'd be the ultimate is happiness. Others who disagree, I think it all comes down to that. Being happy and working hard and achieving something. Yeah, exactly. Well, success for me means that I find what I want to do in life and enjoy it.
I guess it's achieving goals that
Maybe to live the life the way I want it.
I mean, success to me is like, playing need anything to be honest, it's like exams, jobs, anything outside this life, that's
Yes.
Not very important. Maybe just in public for me to all the success. It's meaningless. Yeah, just want to do what I want. And live the life I want.
Yeah, it's very important. Yeah.
Yes, it is important to me to feel that I've been successful, meaning that I have reached what goals I'm setting in my life. It doesn't have to be professional success, success like work or whatever, but just reaching whatever goals I think I should reach.
Yeah. In terms of how I define.
Yes. I don't think you really want to go through like feeling that you did it fairly or anything like that.
I suppose it is like, I've never really thought about it.
Awesome, great. Well, that's got us thinking on the whole subject of success. I wonder what you would define success as. What would you say a successful life is? I guess there is a whole range of opinions, just as we've seen there on the video, isn't there? Maybe for you, success is getting a first. Maybe for others, success is just making sure you don't fail. Maybe success is getting that graduate career path that you chose, or success is just not getting a job at McDonald's. Success, getting paid £1 million or getting paid at all. Maybe success is not getting picked last when you go to play Ultimate Frisbee, or getting picked first. I guess the kind of old adage is, success is, a big house and a big car and a big wife. Well, maybe not the big wife, but the other things, you make it. But what is success? And how do you know whether you've been successful? Well, we all want success, don't we? I mean, I've never met anyone in life saying, I want to be a failure. Maybe there are people out there, but all of us, however we would define it, would say we want to be successful. And in many ways, all of us already are. The very fact that you're here in the University of Manchester, or in Manchester Metropolitan, shows that you are successful. You've achieved a great deal just to get here in the first place. But what is success? Well, we're going to think about that tonight. Hopefully there'll be a number on the screen as we go through the evening, so you can text in to any questions as we go through. But I wonder what you would expect Christians to say about success. I wonder what you're expecting me to say about it tonight. Maybe you're expecting me to say something like this: success is bad and it's dangerous. Because, at the end of the day, success distracts you from what's really important. I mean, sporting success, that's just trivial, isn't it? Education success, well, that's dangerous. It might lead you away from faith, which seems opposed to reason in people's minds. Relationship success, well, maybe that would be a distraction from focusing your life on God. And so most of us would probably imagine that Christianity is pretty down on the whole idea of success. Avoid success. It'll be a distraction at best and dangerous at worst. But actually, I want to say that success is a wonderfully good thing, and that Christianity should celebrate success in its different forms. And I don't know if you expected me to say that, but I want to say that Christianity is very positive about success. And there have been many successful Christians through history in different fields. I don't know if you remember the Olympics in the summer, how could you forget? But do you remember in the Olympics the song that was played during the medal ceremonies? It was the song from Chariots of Fire. And I don't know if you've seen the film. Anyone seen the film Chariots of Fire? A few of you. It was re-released for the Olympics. It's well worth watching. It tells the story, way back, released in 1981, the year I was born, of the 1924 Olympics, and focuses on a Scottish athlete by the name of Eric Liddell, who was also a Christian, and also a rugby player, actually. Scotland could do with some more rugby players, couldn't they? But anyway, he was a good rugby player and an athlete. And he went to the Olympics. Now, it's an amazing story about how he was going to run in one event and ended up running in another event and won gold anyway. But this is what he said about his life as a Christian and an athlete. He said, God made me for a purpose, but he also made me fast. And when I run, I feel his pleasure. Which is an amazing picture, isn't it? He says, look, I'm made with a purpose, and he ended up being a missionary actually in China and spending his life and actually dying in China during the Second World War. But he said, God's also made me fast. And if you ever saw, you get some old kind of vintage footage of Eric Liddell running, he would just look like he was enjoying himself. He would run with his arms flailing out with a big smile on his face. And you just think, this guy just loves running. Because he was a Christian, he wasn't a downer on success. He achieved great success and enjoyed it in a great measure. Christianity celebrates success. And actually, I would say that's in stark contrast to some of the more consistent, I would say, materialistic philosophies about life. Just listen to Patricia Churchland's, listen to her definition of success. She says, the principal chore of brains is to get the body parts where they should be in order that the organism may survive. A fancier style of representing the world is advantageous as long as it enhances the organism's chances of survival. Which is maybe slightly more depressing, isn't it? But she's saying, well, ultimately, in a purely evolutionary world, all of these other things that we seek to achieve in terms of success are peripheral at best. She says, what's the point of them all? As long as you reproduce, pass on your DNA, that's success. Very different, isn't it? So success is a wonderfully good thing. And I don't want to be down on success tonight. What I would say is this, success alone can be profoundly dissatisfying. And history is littered with characters that achieved great success in different fields, and yet found the profound dissatisfaction that came with it. Let's just have a look at some of them. Boris Becker. You may think his hairstyle was not a success, but that's a different matter. But as a tennis player, he was very successful. He was the youngest player ever to win Wimbledon when he won it for the first time and went on to win it again several times. But he said this, I won Wimbledon twice before, once as the youngest player ever. I was rich and I had all the material possessions I needed. Money, cars, women, everything. I was no longer successful. Everything was black. I was on dead-end streets. I had no inner peace. I was a puppet on a string. And actually he speaks very vividly about how he almost took his own life. Despite the incredible success that he had seen, and yet an incredible emptiness that goes with it. Or sticking with the world of sport, Michael Schumacher. Incredibly successful, earlier on you might say, in his career. And after he had won the championship for the first time, he said this, the championship was great for me, but somehow I am not satisfied. There must be something more than what I have. That is what I'm looking for. Now, of course, he went on to win it several more times, but did he go to find that satisfaction? By the fact that he came out of retirement, possibly not. That the emptiness that remained despite the greatest success in his fields. Or look in the world of music. Go back to someone like Beethoven. He said this, I was on the point of putting an end to myself. The only thing that held me back was my art. I felt the urge to compose, and so I have dragged out this miserable existence. Yet incredibly successful, yet incredibly empty. Or bring it forward to the modern day, listen to what Madonna says about success. I have an iron will, and all of my will has always been to conquer some horrible feeling of inadequacy. I push past one spell of it and discover myself as a special human being, and then I get to another stage and think I'm mediocre and uninteresting. Again and again, my drive in life is from this horrible fear of being mediocre. And that's always pushing me, because even though I've become somebody, I still have to prove that I'm somebody. My struggle has never ended, and it probably never will. You can achieve success, but then you just push the goal higher and higher, and yet every time you make it, the dissatisfaction returns. Or what about celebrity? It's very interesting recently, Russell Brand was interviewed, I think about 2 years ago now, by Jeremy Paxman, kind of very unlikely combination. But it was a fascinating interview on Newsnight. And Russell Brand talked very openly about the idea of celebrity, which is very much prevalent in our culture, and the kind of shortcuts to celebrity through something like X Factor or something like that. And he said this, as someone who's achieved great celebrity status, what happens is the initial thrill of achievement, which is the same as if you have acquired a new pair of shoes that you have long craved, and then, well, you realise the shoes are too tight and they ain't that comfortable, and I want another pair of shoes. Walking around in these things ain't the same as I thought it would be. You realise you need nutrition from a higher source, something more valuable. Celebrity, in and of itself, is utterly, utterly vacuous. It's like being presented with a glorious meal, but when you taste it, there is no taste, no succour, no nutrition. It's tiresome. And yet, still, so many strive for success and celebrity status, thinking that that will give satisfaction. One person put it this way. They said, what I was never told is that when you reach the top of the ladder, there is nothing there. And I guess so for some of us, we think, well, we're in a different situation. You know, all of those people, maybe they climbed the wrong ladder or whatever, but when I make it, or when I get my dreams and I achieve my hopes, it will be different. My question is, will it? Will it really be that difference? What makes us think that when we get to the top of the ladder, suddenly we'll find something else that they didn't find? Is success all it's cracked up to be? We're going to have a short drama now that's going to help us to think, maybe a little bit humorously, about this whole subject. So do put your hands together and welcome our drama team.
Once upon a time, there was a beautiful woman named Lady Penelope. She lived a very successful life. Lady Penelope had 5 very large bank accounts and a very rare Platinum Express card. She had an extensive wardrobe with beautiful dresses and 342 pairs of shoes. She also owned the latest Rolls-Royce Phantom and a Bose home cinema surround sound system. Of course, she gained a PhD in astrophysics from Harvard University. And last but not least, she owned the most prestigious pedigree poodle. And one day, Lady Penelope died. The end.
Thank you so much to the drama team, and to Lady Penelope and Poodle, and so on. Thank you. It's all on video, don't worry. There you have it. Okay, it's a good laugh. But actually the most serious point of all is this, isn't it? Success not only is profoundly dissatisfying alone, but also, what is the point if at the end of the day we lose it all? If everything we work for and accumulate and achieve counts for absolutely nothing. So what is true success? We're going to read a short account of Jesus who met an incredibly successful person and see what he had to say to him. It's on page 122 in your Uncover books, and we're going to have that read to us by Rachel, who's going to come up and read that. So turn to page 122, and we're going to read from verse 18, the small number 18. Thank you.
A certain ruler asked him, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "Why do you call me good?" Jesus answered. "No one is good, except God alone. You know the commandments. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not murder. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony. Honor your father and mother." "All these I have kept since I was a boy," he said. When Jesus heard this, he said to him, "You still lack one thing. Sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me." When he heard this, he became very sad, because he was very wealthy. Jesus looked at him and said, "How hard it is for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. Indeed, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God."
Fantastic. Keep them open, because we're going to look at that encounter just for a few moments together now. So here is a guy who is incredibly successful. We're told by Luke that he's very wealthy. We're also told by Mark and Matthew, who also write about this encounter, that not only is he wealthy, but he's young, and he's a local ruler. He has some position of authority in the local community. And hence he's often been known as the rich young ruler. because he has all of those things: wealth, youth, and power. And he has them all at the same time. And if you think about it, when it comes to success, that is pretty good, isn't it? To have wealth, youth, and power all at the same time. Well, most people have one or two of those things at different periods, but often not at the same time. You've all got youth, but probably most of us not wealth. One day you might have wealth, but the chances are you might have lost your youth accumulating it and you won't be able to enjoy it. But here is a guy, he's got all the money in the world to enjoy, and all of his energy and life ahead of him to enjoy it, and he's got this position of authority. This guy would have walked down the town wearing the right kind of clothes, and people would have looked up to him, respected him, and listened to what he had to say. Here is a guy who is successful, and yet here is a guy who is, in his own initiative, coming to talk to Jesus. Which is interesting, isn't it? Because you wouldn't expect people like this to be very interested in Jesus. He's rich, but you would expect poor people to be interested in Jesus. He's young, and yet we would expect old people thinking about death to be interested in Jesus. And he's a ruler, he's successful, he's important. And we expect the weak or the marginalised to be interested in Jesus. But here this guy, he's interested. Why? Well, we don't know, we're not told. But possibly, like the people that we looked at earlier, he had realised that for all his success in all these different fields of life, he was still missing out on something important. And that can be true, can't it? I mean, silly illustration. I remember just being a bit further up the northwest in Lancaster a couple of years ago, speaking at their university, and one night I was driving home from Lancaster at the end of the week, and I got back to Bournemouth, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning when I got home. So I got in and unpacked, got into bed, and was about to head off to sleep. And I just turned the light out, and I'm drifting off to sleep, and I realised, to my horror, that I haven't got any Weetabix in my house. This is awful. I mean, what am I going to do in the morning? I've got no Weetabix. So I thought, well, the only thing for it is I'm going to have to go down to the 24-hour Tesco, buy some Weetabix, so come the morning I can have breakfast, because if I don't, I might even make it alive to Tesco without breakfast. So I get up and you'll be glad to know, put my clothes back on, and I drive down the road to Tesco, and I get there, and then I suddenly think to myself, you know what? This is the best time to come shopping at Tesco. 1, no one's here. 2, everything's half price. It's on special offer because it's middle of the night. So I get one of those big super-sized, family of 8 trolleys. And I decided I was going to do my shopping for the week, in fact for the month. And so I went round, just kind of going around, donuts, 10p, loaves of bread and all this stuff, fruit. All goes into the trolley. By the time I get to the checkout, it's kind of fairly full. Sail through the checkout without anyone else having to queue up behind, and get it all into the car, get home, put it all in the cupboards, get back into my pyjamas, get into bed, and I'm just going to sleep. And then I thought to myself, I forgot the Weetabix. The one thing that I'd gone to get, I didn't have. And maybe this guy, he's got it all, hasn't he? He's got everything, his life is full, and yet, isn't that kind of sneaking feeling, there's something missing, the one thing I really need? Or maybe, when he comes to Jesus, and he asks Jesus this question, he says, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" That's a very interesting question, isn't it? What does Jesus say? Well, Jesus doesn't immediately answer the question. Just look at verse 19. Jesus asks him a question. He says, "Why do you call me good?" You see, just look at the guy's question. What does it assume? He's just saying, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" He's basically saying to Jesus, "Jesus, tell me the good things that I need to do to get in, to qualify, and I'll check whether I'm good enough." And Jesus says, "Why do you call me good?" And then he says, "No one is good except God alone." See, this guy basically thinks, there's a standard of goodness that's going to be good enough, and I just need to make sure I'm there. And Jesus says, who is good enough? God is. And your application to join the Godhead has just been turned down, okay? Maybe you're not good enough. Well, this guy doesn't quite get the point, so Jesus carries on. Verse 20, he says, "You know the commandments. You shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not give false testimony, honour your father and mother." He's listing a number of the 10 commandments as we would find them in Exodus 20 in the Old Testament. But actually, if you count, you'll know that there's not 10 there. There's some missing. In particular, one. We'll come back to it later. But this guy hasn't seemed to notice that some of the commandments are missing, and he just goes straight on. And in verse 21 he says, all these I've kept since I was a boy. So he's saying, look, I've kept the commandments, I've done everything that I need to do. And then Jesus says, verse 22, you still lack one thing. Sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. And what happens? Verse 23. The man heard this, he became very sad because he was very wealthy. And that's it. You see, Jesus told him the commandments. Don't commit adultery, don't murder, don't steal. But there was one missing. What was the one that was missing? Don't be greedy. And yet this guy missed it. So Jesus, rather than just telling him it, illustrates it. He says, all that money you've got, go and give it away. Now, some people get a bit confused about this because they say, well, what is Jesus getting at? Is Jesus saying that if you're going to become a Christian, you've got to give away everything that you have? Okay? Well, if that is the case, for some of us it'd be fairly easy, wouldn't it? Because there's not much to give away. Most of it's owned by the bank or our parents, okay? We can give away our debt quite happily. And also, if Jesus is saying that, there's a kind of technical problem, which is that there would, in theory, be one person in the world that could never become a Christian, because they would have everything that everyone else has given away. So that's not working, is it? I don't think Jesus is saying to become a Christian, everybody must give everything they have away. He is saying, though, to this man, what is the most important thing in your life? What is it that defines you? What is it that you couldn't live without? And for this man, it's his money. And he couldn't live without it. Now, what about you? For most of us, it's probably not the money we have, because as I've said, we don't have a lot. It may, of course, be the aspiration for it. Or maybe not riches, just comfortable life with, everything that we've dreamed of. Maybe it's that career path, that job prospect, that lifestyle, a relationship. What is it that we say, if I had that, life would be complete, and if I didn't have it, life wouldn't be worth living? What's the most important thing to us? Can I say, if the most important thing in our life is not Jesus, I think it's a big mistake. Why, are you asking? Why on earth would that be a mistake? I'm quite happy without him. Well, let me give you two reasons. Firstly, because if God really exists, not just in the figments of my imagination, but in reality, if God exists, and he is the one who created the universe and you, and gave you your mind and your family and your ability to work and to succeed, and if God gave you all of that, you know the most offensive thing we could ever do to God? It wouldn't just be the kind of slight misbehaviours or things like that, but it would be the fact that we would live in his world, and we would take his gifts but ignore him, the giver. Let me try and put it on a kind of human level. Yeah, imagine if you're in a relationship with someone, imagine you buy that guy or that girl, a really expensive present, and you've saved up for weeks, months to get it. Finally it comes, it's their birthday or it's your anniversary or whatever, and you give them the presents. And they get the presents and they unwrap it, and they love the presents, and you're thinking, great. But then they don't talk to you and they just dump you or something like that. How would you feel? But actually, sometimes we do that with God. We take his gifts and our abilities and everything else, but we kind of live ignoring him. We take the gifts, ignore the giver. And if God is the one who gave all of us those things in the first place, that would be offensive. But also there's another reason why this is a mistake, to live for other things and not Jesus. And the other reason is because it doesn't satisfy. And how did that story end? Just look again down there at verse 23. Jesus has just told this man, if you want to follow me, go sell all you've got. And in verse 23, when he heard this, he became really happy because he had held on to his wealth. Is that what it said? No. He became very sad because he was very wealthy. See, here's the irony of the story. This man comes to Jesus, he knows that something's missing in his life, he wants what Jesus has got to offer, and Jesus says, okay, give up your money and get it. And the guy won't give up his money, but he's still not happy. And actually what we've seen already, and we'll see in a moment, is that when we live for other things other than God, they ultimately disappoint. and they don't satisfy. Let me just look at 3 examples. We talked about Chariots of Fire, the film, and Eric Liddell, the Christian athlete. If you watch the film Chariots of Fire, you'll know that there's another character that's contrasted with Eric Liddell. That's the runner Harold Abrahams, 100-metre runner. And they're both preparing for the Olympics, and they're both wanting to succeed, and they both do succeed, in fact, in their different sports. But Harold Abrahams has a very different perspective on success. You see, he doesn't just think that success is a good thing to enjoy. He says success is everything to him. I've got to succeed because that's who I am. And this is what he said. I'm 24 years old, and I've never known contentment. I'm forever in pursuit, and I don't even know what I'm chasing. And now, in 1 hour's time, this is just before the race was about to begin, I will be out there again. I'll raise my eyes and look down the corridor, 4 feet wide and with 10 lonely seconds to justify my existence. But will I? Profoundly honest. He's saying, look, this is what I'm living for, but will it count? And in fact, what you see is that he achieves the adulation and the gold, but actually he doesn't achieve what he really longs for, contentment or satisfaction. He's got it, but it doesn't satisfy. Or maybe slightly more humorously in the film world, let's look at Cool Runnings. Who's watched Cool Runnings? Who hasn't watched Cool Runnings? Gosh, guys, you need to go home tonight and rent out Cool Runnings. Cool Runnings is definitely up in my top 5 ever films. Brilliant film about the Jamaican bobsleigh team, okay? Wonderful, gotta go and watch it. Hilariously funny, but also quite moving, and at times quite profound. And it tells the story of the Jamaican bobsleigh team led by their captain, Doris, and their coach, Irv, played by the late John Candy. He had been thrown out of the Olympics years before for cheating in the bobsleigh, and he came back to try and coach these guys to success. And Doris, the captain, has just discovered about what Irv, his coach, had done in cheating years before. And he says to Irv, he says, why did you do it? You had 5 gold medals, you had everything, why did you do it? And then Irv says, a gold medal is a wonderful thing, Doris, but if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it. And then he goes on to say, I have made winning my all, and when you make winning your all, you've just got to win. See, here is a guy who had lived for success, but actually, the very success ruined him because it was never enough. Or even more seriously, maybe, let's look at this guy, David Foster Wallace. You may not have heard of him. An author from America, died just about a year ago.